Hello, and welcome to Honto Eigo, Japan's only 99.9% English podcast hosted from my dinner table. Nice to meet you. My name is Matt, M-A-T-T. It's short for Matthew, but please call me Matt. And I'm a Canadian living in Japan right now. In my daytime, I'm a English teacher. I've been an English teacher for about 7 years now. I've been living in Japan for 4.5, maybe 5 of those 7 years, but I've also taught in Canada as well. So what is Honto Eigo? Well, primarily, it's a podcast meant to boost your English listening ability. As of now, my plan for this podcast is to have 2 types of episodes. The first type will just be me talking about a topic. The topics could range from anything between, books that I'm reading, common questions about English grammar and about English speaking as a whole, test questions from the Aiken test series, primarily Aiken 2 and higher, and things like that, and maybe general tips on learning English. The other type of episode that I'm hoping to make will be interviews. Now, the types of people that I want to interview are generally people who are related to the study of English. What does that mean? That means I want to interview other English teachers, maybe English teachers living in Japan, or people who teach English in other countries. Maybe they teach ESL students. And also, I want to interview Japanese people or people who are studying English and who have kind of reached a intermediate to advanced level of English already. And maybe they can give us some tips on how they got to the level that they're at today. So why am I making this podcast? What do I get out of it? I've studied English my whole life and I love it. I really love teaching English, and I've met so many students that are trying so hard to level up their English. And, for myself as a person who has been studying Japanese for a long time, I listen to a ton of Japanese conversation podcasts, but I always find it's hard to find the right level of difficulty, With this podcast, I'm not aiming at absolute beginners in English, right? That's why I call it the 99.9% English podcast. I'm not hoping to use any Japanese in this podcast, but maybe I will for the occasional translation. That being said, this podcast will be targeted towards people who are intermediate or higher. So people who are maybe at Aiken level 2 and above. So why a podcast in the first place? Why not make a YouTube channel? Well, personally, for me, I love podcasts. It might be my favorite form of media, more than any other media, I think. And the reason for that is I can listen to a podcast while I do everything else in my life, right? When I'm commuting and riding the train, when I'm going for a walk, when I'm exercising, when I'm cleaning my house, when I'm cooking, when I'm playing a game. I'm hoping that with this podcast, people can get as much English listening practice as possible, right? And hopefully it won't interfere with the rest of your daily life. Hopefully you can listen to this podcast while you're doing, the other more important things in your life, right? I just want to be that English voice talking in your ear. One last point is the name of the show, Honto Eigo. If you look at the cover art that I made over there, I use the kanji for hon, as in book, and to, as in, and or with, and then eigo, the Japanese word for English. This is a word play. This is a pun based on the word Honto, like really or real, and books and English. So, I have a focus in literature. I study literature in university, and I love reading. I love books. I love teaching with books. So that's going to be a big part of the show. If you don't love reading, don't worry about it. You don't have to love reading to listen to this show. Hopefully, I can, you know, show you the appeals of reading in English, without wasting too much of your time. Oh, yeah, and one more thing. The little audio snippet, the clip at the beginning of each episode. Before our theme song kicks in, I'm going to include a little bonus Easter egg, a clip from an English movie or a TV show or something like that. I'm not going to tell you what the clip is from each episode, but if you have a guess or if you recognize it or if you can find it, feel free to let me know in the comments section of the Instagram. So, that's about it for my, episode 0 here, just explaining the purpose of the show. But if you want to follow along with the show, hopefully will be published on platforms like Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you can listen to podcasts, I'll be there, or I'll try to be there. Also, you can follow Honto Eigo on Instagram. That's at Honto Eigo, HontoEigo. And if you have any questions for me, or if you have a topic suggestion for a topic that you would like me to talk about on the show, you can email me at hontoeigo@gmail.com. Once again, that's HontoEigo@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Let's hear that theme song one more time. Take us away, electric piano.